The Founding Fathers, American Revolution, our Constitution, our history, America. Thanks so much for tuning in as we discuss the people, places, events, and battles that turned 13 separate colonies into the greatest nation on earth, the United States.
Welcome back, Patriots. I'm Ron Kern, and if you love the grit, determination, and untold stories of the American Revolution, you are in the right place. As a veteran, my connection to this history runs pretty deep. My fifth great-grandfather, Peter Kern, fought in the American Revolution, and his legacy fuels my passion about the heroes who helped shape our nation. And speaking about my ancestor, Peter, my book, which is a historical fiction about him and his brother Jacob, both of which who fought in the American Revolutionary War, is moving along quite nicely. And in doing such massive research for this book, I was really amazed at how many battles that they were actually involved with and participated in such a short time. But lots more to come in the future about this book. And thanks to all of you who have purchased one of my books from my new children's book series called the Young Patriots series. And at the time of this podcast, I have completed 3 books, with the first one being about, of course, George Washington. You can also choose from John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. My 4th book in the series will be about our First Lady. For now, I want to give a couple books away, so these books, again, are for ages up to 5 or so. And here's what you can do for your chance to win a signed copy of, I'll give out my first book, The George Washington, Brave and True. It's super easy for your chance to win for the drawing that's going to be taking place April 20th in 2025, just a few weeks away. Just sign up for my newsletter, which you can do at patriotpowerpodcast.com, or write a short review of my podcast. And I will have your email if you choose the newsletter option. But if you do write a review, just do a screenshot of it and email that to me at patriotpowerpodcast@gmail.com. It's not to prove that you did a review. It's so that I can have your email address and in turn get your mailing address. And if you're one of the lucky winners, I will contact you, get your mailing address, and mail that out to you. And if you're wondering, yes, you can do both of these options. Sign up for the newsletter and do a review of this podcast, which doubles your chances to win. All right, our last timeline episode, which was episode 51, we discussed an important event, which was the battle at Moores Creek Bridge that took place in February 1776 and really isn't that well known. But if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I'm not going to spoil it. But the length of the actual battle is truly astonishing. But today we are going to be talking about an event, and I must go back in time a little bit, as this took place in both January and February of 1776. The event has a couple of different names. One, the Bombardment of Norfolk, but it's most commonly referred to and known as the Burning of Norfolk. The British set the city on fire in January, turning it into a smoldering wasteland. And that was Lord Dunmore's way of saying, hey, fine, you don't want the king and you don't want to break away from England? Well, if that's the case, then you get nothing. But here's the thing. Despite that massive destruction, the Patriots weren't going to be giving up anytime soon. As December 21st rolled around, Captain Henry Bellew, Bellew, he arrived on the HMS Liverpool, bringing with him about 400 Marines and lots of much-needed supplies. With this boost in reinforcements, Dunmore saw an opportunity, so he lined up his naval fleet against Norfolk and issued an ultimatum. Either the town provided food for his men, or they would face the consequences. As you may have guessed, the Patriot forces weren't having any of that, and they flat out refused. So just like that, a tense standoff began, and it stretched through Christmas. Needless to say, holiday cheer was in short supply that year. By December 30th, Baloo had run out of patience, and so he renewed his threat, warning that Norfolk would be burned to the ground if they did not comply. To make matters worse, he ordered the evacuation of women and children, signaling that he was rather serious about following through with his threat. Then, as the clock struck New Year's Day, 1776, the British fleet made good on its promise. Over 100 cannons roared to life, bombarding Norfolk for more than 24 hours straight. British Marines landed soon afterwards, engaging in brutal hand-to-hand combat with the Patriot defenders. They set homes along the waterfront ablaze, they destroyed buildings, and even burned the ship called Snow down to the waterline. But despite the chaos, the Patriots managed to push the Marines back to their ships. But the destruction was not over. On January 2nd, Patriot forces took things a step further, torching large sections of the city themselves, specifically targeting the homes of known loyalists. By January 3rd, the worst of the battle seemed to be over. However, just a couple days later, on the 5th of January, Patriot forces stormed the British-controlled Gosport shipyard. The British abandoned it, but not before setting fire to most of it. So over the next few weeks and into late February, the two sides exchanged sporadic fire, but there weren't any major or significant battles. In February, the HMS Roebuck arrived with more British troops, but with no chance of reclaiming Norfolk, the fleet basically withdrew to Portsmouth. And from there, they launched occasional raids on nearby coastal towns, but Dunmore made no real solid effort to retake control or even build a new army. By that point, royal authority in Virginia had effectively collapsed. The Patriots had won, and the British rule in that colony was all but finished. Now, you might be wondering, like I was, if the city was already in ruins, why was this city and the destruction of it so important? Well, there's actually a few reasons. One, it was one of the last major British attempts to control Virginia. Dunmore was still hoping that he could rally loyalist support and regain its power, but this battle showed that was not going to be taking place. Secondly, the Patriots proved that they could hold their ground against a British naval assault. This wasn't just a malicious skirmish. This was Virginia's revolutionaries standing firm against the most powerful navy in the world. And lastly, and what it really did is it just sped up Dunmore's downfall. Because after this, and he knew that Virginia was slipping away and was pretty much not going to be under his control anymore, he started preparing to abandon the entire colony altogether. It was one of the last gasps of British power in Virginia, and a sign that the revolutionaries weren't just fighting, they were actually winning. By the end, Norfolk, Virginia's largest and most prosperous port, was almost entirely destroyed, making one of the first large-scale urban devastations of the war. This event solidified Virginia's commitment to the Patriot cause and demonstrated the growing intensity of the conflict between Britain and its rebelling colonies. Here is some input that those at the time and those that were there wrote about the burning of Norfolk, and for me, actual quotes from the time seem to add more, validity or perspective, and it just makes it more real and special for me. So I'll start, of course, with George Washington, who wrote in January 1776, "The enemy have destroyed Norfolk, which, as you know, was of great importance to us, and have now left it in a state of devastation. I cannot help but express my grief at the desolation of such a place which once held such promise." And Thomas Jefferson also said, "The burning of Norfolk has struck a blow at the heart of Virginia. Though the enemy's retreat has spared much of the town, the destruction is nevertheless extensive and heartbreaking." Richard Henry Lee added, "It is with great sorrow that I report the fall of Norfolk. The British forces, in their usual ruthless manner, have set fire to it, leaving it in ruin. The once proud city now stands in ashes, a grave reminder of the cost of our struggle. And the last quote is from Patrick Henry, also in January 1776. The flames that now consume Norfolk stand as a testament to the horrors of war. I cannot help but feel the loss of such a vital port, but our cause is just, and we shall rebuild from the ashes. So the burning of Norfolk really was a crazy event for sure, if you consider an entire city, a very popular and important city, was burned to the ground and completely destroyed. Okay, we have now reached the part of the show called Lesser Known or Unknown Facts that you probably are not going to find in your average history book. Dunmore was running out of supplies fast, and by this time the British ships in the harbor were low on food, water, and ammunition, making this bombardment a desperate attempt to stay relevant. Some of Dunmore's forces included runaway enslaved men who joined the British. He had formed the Ethiopian Regiment, promising freedom to enslaved people who fought for the king. Many of these men were on board his ships during this battle. The British actually fired on what was left of the city that they burnt down initially. The Patriots had fortified spots near the ruins so that the British were literally destroying their own destruction from January's attack. Norfolk never fully recovered from these attacks. Even after the war, the city struggled for decades. In fact, it wasn't until the 1800s that Norfolk really started to bounce back as a major port city. This was one of the earliest siege-like battles of the entire Revolution, and even though it wasn't a formal siege, it had the same feeling. British forces were trapped on ships, Patriots were holding the land, and both sides stuck in a standoff. In the next episode of our Timeline series, I'm going to delve into what took place in March of 1776. If you want to explore more, the show notes and links are waiting for you in the podcast description of this episode. If you're listening on YouTube, it will be also down there in that description as well. So dive in, discover, and you can learn even more about today's topic. If you'd like to support the show, leave a review. Also, that's going to get you a chance to win. Listen to the music I created about the American Revolution, or just to say hello. You can do all of this at patriotpowerpodcast.com. And again, I really appreciate you looking at my children's book series. All of these are on my website, or you can go to Amazon and type in my name, Ronald Kern, Kern, and it will pop right up. Until next time, let's keep the torch of liberty burning and honor the courage and sacrifice of those who helped create our country. Stay vigilant, cherish your freedom, and together, let's keep the spirit of 1776 alive.
Thanks for listening, and hope that you tune in next time with us here at the Patriot Power Podcast. Make sure that you hit subscribe so you'll get notified when our new episodes are available for you. And we hope that you check out our websites, which include our show notes, links, documents, and more at patriotpowerpodcast.com or ilovegeorgewashington.com. Until next time, hope that you and your family have a blessed week. And remember, be safe and tell a veteran thanks for their service.